The story starts off in the castle of Duke Dane, where our protagonist, Rest, is tragically stripped of his airship. Rest didn't expect this to happen all of a sudden, and he thinks back to the very same morning everything was fine. At least he thought so. However, now even if he's exiled, he's more happy about the fact he'll be free of all duties and social connections. Right then his stepbrother Vargas calls him out, and Rest asks him why is he out here without any attendants with him. Vargas speaks out in a weak tone. I'm sorry I couldn't stop my mother's schemes. Rest knows his stepmother was the one behind his exile, since she wanted to make her real son Vargas the next head of the Dane family. But our boy was fine with all that, since this means he could escape this suffocating noble world. Vargas is really feeling guilty, because he's a pure soul, and he feels bad to see his elder brother Rest will be exiled to the undeveloped wasteland instead of his mother's homeland. Rest gets the idea. He'll be exiled to the Eldova Island, to become its new lord, although there's nothing to rule in first place. Well, guess that shows how much his stepmother despised him. Vargas wanted to at least help him with the ship and a few attendants, but Rest assures him it's fine. This wasn't enough to relieve Vargas of the guilt and worries, and Rest truly admires and likes his younger brother. He tries to cheer him up, saying Vargas is actually more suited to be heir than he ever was. Vargas thinks his elder brother is putting on a brave act for his sake, which makes him worry even more. But little did he know, Rest was actually fine with all this exile and all. And the last thing he needed was sympathy, which Vargas won't stop giving. Later on, in Rest's own manor, his maids had prepared a cake for his 18th birthday. And once he returned, all of them wished Lord Rest a delightful happy birthday. Rest was very much happy by the party, and over the food he told everyone about his exile, following up with the question, what kind of Eldova is? Do they know? While the maids didn't know much, Kita, his butler, answered in detail that the word Eldova basically means the farthest end. And just like its meaning, the Eldova Island is located so far off in the sea that even the kingdom have given up on surveying it. This sounds tough, to think Lord Rest would be exiled to a place like that. But Rest was totally cool with it, and he would even get some men helping him in the journey there, although they'll leave after making sure he reached the island. Now, Rest thanked all his maids and butler for everything they did for him until now, but it seems they have already made decisions to follow him, asserting him one by one from Tareen, Agni, and Fail. Although Fail seemed pretty excited considering the situation, which made Agni feel like Fail is treating this situation as some school trip, and Rest was chill with that idea, and he packed a lot of stuff including Kingdom's survey materials from past scouts. Everyone was lively during the packing, and just like that, preparations for Eldova Island progressed smoother than expected. In the midst of that, the laborers thought the ship wasn't large enough to store all these logs and steel beams Lord Rest asked for, but they were ordered to just leave them right there by the pier. So they did just that. Although it wouldn't be a lie to say they were curious, what's he planning to do with this stuff? By the night, Rest arrived by the pier, and he thanked everyone again for coming with him. Kita, his butler, promised Lord Rest will never be alone, as they promised his late mother, Lady Eliza, that they will always protect and take care of Rest. Rest kind of misses her mother now that he remembers her again, and recalls one promise he made to her as well, to never use his powers recklessly. She tells Rest that his gift is an S-rank skill, crafting. And while our boy was clueless about it in that age, she made sure he knows one sole thing he needs to know, to be very careful of those who might want to misuse his powers, and only active his skill when it truly matters. And now, since Rest is exiled and all to a wasteland, he thinks it should count as when it truly matters. He's done with all the speech and memory lane, so he glances around to make sure no one is around except for his trusted attendants, then turns to the large logs and steel beams to store them while no one's watching and departs right away. Next morning, the laborers are shocked and confused where those logs and steel beams disappeared off to, and while Rest sailed for over 3 days until their voyage finally neared its end. Navigators let everyone know when their destination was in sight, and Rest excitedly takes a big look at the huge whole cliff which borders the Eldova Island. Just one glance was enough to know it's really amazing, just like Kita said, but the other men on ship doubted if anyone could even live in a place like that. It's lucky they don't have to live here with Rest, but they don't know how to report this bad news to Lord Vargas. Unaware, it's actually the best Rest could have hoped for. Once he lands on one of the shores of the island, a life full of enjoyment and unexpected twists await for Rest. Before we move forward, we should know a little about gifts. They are special powers given by the god upon a few people around the world. Since Rest was stripped of his family name, he was now moving forward with his mother's surname, Kaerdine, and he didn't waste time in putting his S-class craft skill to work. First off, he created a proper port around the shore to ease up their future travels. Others were amazed as they witnessed his skill at work so flawlessly. Once the proper walkable pier was constructed, Kita praised the Lord Rest for splendid work, and he liked that. while recalling that he doesn't really need any blueprints and guidance to construct anything. As long he has touched something, he can craft it. His maid, Tareen, Fail, and Agni also mentioned how remarkable his skill is actually, and Rest takes in all the compliments and decides to get started with the work on reshaping the cliff. He simply raised his hand towards the wall and activated craft. A large cave appeared right away. Agni was curious if his skill can not only craft but also erase stuff, which might be kind of hard to explain for Rest, but in a gist, he could absorb materials with a gesture, then use them to carve out a proper cave in that cliff. Fail was curious what happens to things he absorbs. He simply replies they are kinda stored inside him as materials, which throwed her off guard, and she just left it at that. We know why. After a few hours of work, the following blueprint was the structure of the whole cliff from inside, starting with an entrance from the bottom, followed by a dining hall and break room on the first floor, open-air baths on the second, and more free space on the third floor so they can travel further into the deep cliffs. Rest was very careful about ensuring safety for everybody, and since he was working so hard, his maid Tareen let him know when to take a break for lunch. Agni's homemade sandwiches and soup were just perfectly what Rest needed, and he helped himself to the lunch. However, when he noticed a pickle within the sandwiches, he was about to remove it, but Fail called him out on what he was doing. He asked her to be quiet about it, but Agni already noticed and told Lord Rest he shouldn't be so picky about food. That's part of showing proper responsibility for shaping his territory and maintaining good nutrition while he's at it. Rest just zoned out from the lecture, and later Tareen was about to do some dishes, so she asked him for some fresh water. Rest took out some fresh water from the storage and placed it in a jar for use. Agni didn't expect he could store even water. She doubts it could be seawater. He replied he had actually been sneaking around well to secretly siphon off water from the Dane family's well every day. She asked if there's even a limit to how much he can store. Moreover, won't the water get rot or mixed up with other items? He assured he can store them endlessly and separate from each other at that without worrying about it rotting. In any case, they don't really need to worry about water for a while, in which case they decide to have a bath before calling it a day. They slept soundly that night, and next morning, Rest headed right away to work on the progress of the remaining cliff. He finally felt the further spot become hollow, which means they'll arrive in the interior of the island crossing here. Maids were excited and wondering what kind of house they should build. Rest haven't really thought about it yet, so Fail suggested ideas for a really spacious and nice-looking house. Rest happily kept working more, thinking he'll soon make his entry into the island, but in reality, he kept at it for 6 hours and still didn't find his way out. Maids didn't expect it to take this much time, and Rest didn't either. And since they can't just turn around now, he crafted a proper space to stay there temporarily, and several days later, they finally made it out of the cave. They had been worried about it since it took so long, but now it was relieving to finally be out of that cliff and see some sky above their heads. Tareen mentioned it was really silent out here, not even a sign of birds, so she thought they might be the only ones out here. Kita observed the surroundings and mentioned there wasn't much mentioned about this place in all the surveys conducted in the past. Rest stepped forward and declared in that case they'll conduct their own investigation. Firstly, he'll clear the trees to make a road wide enough for carts, and this is exactly when his craft skill shines. As they traveled further into the island, surprisingly, they came across what seems to be a wrecked house made by humans, and upon close analysis, Kita came to the conclusion that this place used to be the survey team's base in the past. They might find some clues if they keep looking. Rest decided to check it out, while Tareen thought she would work on lunch while he searched. Kita noticed the place seems to be wrecked by some beasts, which means they should be on alert while they're here. Rest was glad they looked around the rubble before he cleared this out with his skill. Then he noticed some broken stairs, which took him to a room that seems to be the commander's place or something. Kita thought they would come across some old survey data within, since the survey of this place was immediately called off due to wars in the past. Rest was thinking of absorbing the door to open it, but he worried he might damage papers or something inside, so he took a closer look at the lock and thought he could probably craft a matching key for it. Kita was shocked, as Lord Rest crafted a temporary key and even managed to open the door skillfully like some thief. He felt the importance of asking, when did Lord Rest pick up on thief skills? He claims he learned it during his school days. Kita wanted to give him a lecture, but Rest wasn't interested in that and just went ahead and slowly, carefully opened the door. They noticed most of the items here seemed to be already gone, and upon further observation of the desk, Rest noticed something seems to be stuck in there. He pulled it a little strangely and a notebook dropped from the back of the drawer. The notebook seems to be about their findings of the island, including some mentions of natives. Agni noticed there were some pages torn off from the book, which he guessed may be due to the survey team erasing it after making a mistake. However, Kita doesn't recall the official surveys ever mentioning signs of prior inhabitants, so they might have never met these inhabitants themselves, and just saw signs they could never confirm. Fail asked to take a look at the book, and after closer inspection of the book under sunlight, she noticed there were little traces of past words on it. Rest also noticed the indentation marks, and he guessed maybe it could reveal what was written on the missing page. He asked her to lend a colored pencil, and after he traced those indentation marks, it talked of a spring deep in the forest, a figure riding a monster, probably a children, and elves. Fail immediately got excited and wished to be friends with those elves if they're here. Lord Rest also felt the same, but Agni was worried if they could be scary. Tareen asked how they would talk to them since they don't know elf tongue, to which Fail replied they could just share some sweets with them, and it'll be enough to express their friendliness. Kita asked Lord Rest what he thinks. Rest on the surface seems on board with Fail's idea, but he whispers secretly to Kita he doesn't want to worry others, so they'll make sure to be careful while progressing further. Lunch was prepared, so they took a break and ate it. And later, once the maids went to do dishes, Kita was alone with Rest, so he mentioned it could cause some trouble to elves if humans were to develop forests here, and there's no way they'd ignore intruders. Others have heard of elves, being a race interested in living deep within the forests, wielding magic far beyond theirs, and he has heard even the kingdom struggles to negotiate with elves. He hoped the end of the survey had nothing to do with the elves, since it could hinder his progress of developing this land. For now, just in case Kita decided to keep an eye on Forest Edge, while Rest would try to learn more about stuff written in this book, unaware, they were soon going to have some unexpected guests. Kita was carefully measuring the grounds they'll be using as foundation for their home. Rest was thankful for his help, and once Kita was done, Rest solidified the foundation with his craft skill before building anything over it. Next, Kita designed blueprints including ideas from other maids about how the house should be, and once Rest had enough checks, he executed the blueprint with the craft skill and started making their house from scratch. Saw the materials and all seemed like they emerged out of nowhere and started flying around. And hours later, he informed the maids once he was fully done with their new home. It was made on the same place the ruined house was, and now that they got a solid home, they won't have to worry about rains or anything else and live comfortably here. When it came to rooms, Rest made Kita's room packed with books like a library. Tareen's room was like a big walk-in closet overflowing with dresses. Fail's room was like an attic hideout full of playful charm. And lastly, when Agni went to her room, she walked in only to find out her room was just the prettiest out of all, with so many soft toys around her. He created them with his skill as well, and he got this idea from Fail, who knew what Agni liked the best. Agni wasn't the type to express herself much, so she kept her excitement within, but she clearly looked happy. Just like that, their home was well built with everyone in mind. They even kept a stable, along with moats around the whole house to keep monsters away. And as for the lighting of the house, it was powered by mana stones, and since they were rare, they used them wisely. Once Rest set them up in important areas including the kitchen, Agni was thankful since it'll help cooking better. After that, Rest asked Kita what should be next since he had used up most of their cotton and linen to make everyone's room. Kita mentioned they need to sail to nearby towns for restock purposes. Rest thinks that's a good idea, and he could use the funds he received at time of exile. However, he wants to prioritize finding something local they can trade with. Kita understands his reasoning, and that aside, it's time for dinner. Everyone sat together in the dining hall, thanking God for the meal before digging right in. Rest was thankful for everyone helping him out so much and also joining him at the dinner. And tonight's dinner was tasty chicken and vegetable soup made by Tareen. Agni served everyone and made them clear of one thing, to finish it all and leave no leftovers. And Fail reminded Lord Rest not to be picky this time. However, Rest still passed up on the pickles. Kita told him he won't grow if he's always picky like that. The next morning, he was enjoying the weather from the window when suddenly he noticed an odd ball of fur moving around his house. Its size alone was gigantic enough to worry about their safety, so he immediately called everyone and informed them what he saw this morning. He noticed there were some fluff balls on Fail's head and told them that thing looked exactly like them, but only bigger. He was kind of surprised when Fail even picked them up. Tareen explained that Fail found them while doing laundry, thinking they might be lost. Agni took a closer look at them and thought of one possibility. Is this fluff ball some little baby chicks they are keeping here when they shouldn't? Just then, they hear a loud screech from the outside, and when they looked outside, Rest recognized the fluff ball outside was the same monster he saw earlier. Kita recalls seeing it from his adventurer's days. That fluff ball is actually a cockatrice, and it seems to be searching for its chicks. Thus, even though Agni didn't want to, they had to release the chicks and they returned back to their parents. They thought it'll leave, but the opposite happened and they ended up making a nest in the stable. Rest thinks the behavior of that cockatrice looks like it's hiding from something, and right then, they hear something behind them. Kita gets on alert and asks Lord Rest to get everyone inside home just in case while he deals with that wolf that's approaching them. Rest worried if Wolf chased the cockatrice all the way here, in which case he should craft a cage, but Kita told him to stop, he'll handle it himself. But little did they know, the wolf wasn't something they should be scared from because, while they were on high alert, the wolf simply walked forward and yawned like the least harmful beast out there. Kita mentions the beast seems to be terribly weakened, and it also brought someone along with him. They clearly understood the situation was urgent, so they took the boy inside home and asked maids to prepare for a medical emergency. Tareen examined his situation and saw no major wounds, so they don't have to worry about it. She was good at medicines since she studied them. Rest told her he could craft if she needed anything, and would step out for a bit as she needed to remove clothes of the patient to examine properly. He assumed it was a girl, but in reality she corrected him saying, it's actually a boy. He wondered when and how did she confirm it. Tareen got flustered, and explained it's just the clothes of this boy which looks fine in quality, and his ears suggest he might really be an elf. They sorted out the elf language issue thanks to Kita, since he knows a little because he used to be an adventurer, which leaves some food preparation for the patient. Agni went to make some soup, and the maids teased him saying they hope this boy won't be a picky eater like Lord Rest. Right then, the elf boy regained consciousness, and he woke up to the sight of these weird guys staring at him. The elf boy, still confused, asked them in human language, where's Falshi? They understood he must be talking about that wolf, so Rest answered. He's outside, having some food since he seemed hungry. He introduced himself with his name, Rest, and explained he only arrived here recently as newly appointed lord of this island. He asked the elf boy about his story. The boy introduced himself as Coco, and apparently he stepped on a slate of flour outside their village, and if an elf steps on it, they are bound to lose all their ability to use magic. It could be seen by the boy's hand turning black slowly. And for elves, Kita states their lives are wholly dependent on magic, so losing it would mean losing their life itself. Coco adds that anyone who gets close to him will also be cursed, so he actually left the village thinking not to bring trouble to others. Rest never heard of something like that in school. Tareen mentions it could be some sort of allergy from the pollen of that flower. Kita also thinks that might be the case. Thus Rest asked Tareen to examine the boy more closely. Tareen already seems to have an idea, but she'll examine the boy first thoroughly and have results by sunset. When the sun was setting, Tareen went to others and confirmed it was already. And while humans like them only sneeze from the pollen, the elves react much worse. Fail asked if there's a cure for this allergy. Unfortunately, she doesn't have anything needed for the cure at hand. She took the book of herbs and showed them the herb they are missing. And when Rest looked at it, he started checking his storage to see if he ever stored anything like it. Fortunately, he found something that looks similar, which he must have collected while removing stuff with craft skill earlier to build the road. It's worth giving it a try, so he picked out the herb and asked Tareen if it's the right one. She was happy to see it since it's exactly what they needed, and now she went to brew it right away. Others waited until she was done, and after Coco tried the soup, he remarked it's tasty and thanked them for the help. He mentioned not knowing there was a house here before. Agni replied. They arrived here very recently, actually, and other than that, Agni asked him if there are more elves in his village. Coco replied his village people are actually half-elves, and Fail mentioned he's similar to Agni in that case, since she's half-beast folk herself. Now, since the medicine will take some time to be effective, Agni asked if he'd like to eat anything before resting. Fail wanted to eat chiffon cake made by her, but Agni didn't really ask Fail. Fail suggested Coco to try it, since it's really legendary, soft, and delicious. However, Agni was lacking eggs for making it, and they don't have any chickens here either. Agni doesn't recall seeing a single bird either, and she decided to consult Lord Rest about it. A few days later, Coco seemed to be feeling just fine, and even the fading of his hand recovered. Fail and Rest were glad Tareen's medicine worked really splendidly. But right then, they heard Agni screaming outside, so they quickly went to check out what happened and saw her standing in awe and disappointment at the same time, because cockatrice still doesn't seem to warm up to her. Rest told her it's normal since monsters are wary of others, but she just wanted to befriend it and bury her face in that fluff. Coco stepped forward and offered to help her befriend the cockatrice, which they usually refer to as Coco birds in their village. He also mentioned they could get eggs from Coco birds too, and explained to them about the process. Rest decided to get started right away with making a chicken house for the Coco birds, and they seemed to need to make the bedding more soft, since Coco birds were delicate and would refuse to lay eggs on stony surfaces. And so the coop was built without any troubles, the eggs problem was solved, and at the end they also got to have that fluffy chiffon cake made by Agni. Coco was delighted to taste something so yummy, and others also liked it a lot. Kita didn't expect those Coco birds to be so careful that they discard the unfertilized eggs from normal ones. This ensures them a steady source of protein. Fail tells Lord, Rest those eggs from Coco bird were actually as big as his head. Later around dawn, Rest told Coco his parents might be worried, so he should return back. And while they're at it, Rest will also take this chance to greet them since they'll be living on the same island from now on. He also decided to prepare some gifts for them, in which case, Cortico suggested the cake would be just perfect for gift, along with the antidote of Slada flour. He thanked them again for everything, although he is a bit worried if it's really okay for him to go back. Tareen reassured him he'll be fine, since he has recovered fully now. Rest was glad he got someone as reliable as Tareen with him, and with this decided, he announced his visit to Cortico's village the next day. In some free time, Lord Rest tried to store the magic stone, but it wasn't possible. He wanted to carry them because it'll be really helpful if he could. Then Tareen noticed in his hand, he got a clock that was used by his mother, Lord Eliza. It brings back memories, and Rest actually wanted to do something about the clock, because it would be troublesome if the clock's magic ran out on the way to Cortico's village. Tareen also prepared to head out for the village with him, and he made sure the direction they'll be heading to make sure they can return properly back to home. Rest take a close look at Cortico and his wolf, thinking they could be the figure of a monster child, as mentioned in the survey team's notes. And the spring deep in the forest could be the area near Cortico's village. Now, Kita asks Lord Rest if he and Kita himself should escort Cortico back to the village, since there's a possibility of dangerous monsters out there in the forest. But Cortico confirmed there aren't any dangerous monsters out there, though, and the sacred beast also lives there in the forest, ensuring no dangerous monster lurks in there. It was Rest's first time hearing of the sacred beast. Cortico mentioned the holy beast sometimes comes over to the spring shrine, to ensure everyone as if it's looking over the forest. Everyone's relieved to have a holy beast looking over them, and they even started making offerings to it. Rest now thinks back on how many trees he cut down while developing the area, worried if it's really okay for him. Kita here, on other hand, is relieved to hear that, and figures he will remain here and look out over the home then, leaving Lord Rest's protection to Fail, who is more skilled in martial arts. They went over to the coop, where Agni was still trying to befriend Coco birds, but she still didn't make much progress. Rest comes and asks her to not push herself so much, and she admits it was tough even after she tried Cortico's method. She wanted to at least be useful this way, since she's pretty useless as Rest's bodyguard. But he doesn't really mind that and asks her to come along with him, since he'd like to have some food made by her. She agrees to Lord Rest, while Kita was instructing Fail to keep good care of Lord Rest and Agni on the way, as his one and only disciple. She also wanted to see just how well she had become in martial arts, and thus, the party headed deep into the forest to return Cortico. On the way, Cortico asked his pet to pull the carriage for them, which made Rest curious if all half-elves can talk to animals like that. Cortico replies with a no. It's something only his family could do. That's why he used to be a good animal keeper in the village. Later on, they camped outside since the way to Elf Village was long, and Fail kept watch over them during the night, since she's very reliable as a fighter. Next morning, she woke up Agni and told her she just saw a fluffy creature outside, and since Agni liked fluffy creatures, she couldn't resist the temptation to check it out right away. Fail accompanied her for safety, and further ahead, they saw more bushes and all, as they got denser into the forest. Agni could see properly even in this situation thanks to her beast eyes, and once she found something, she went towards it right away. Meanwhile, Rest woke up just now and asked Tareen where are Agni and Fail. She replied not having seen them since early morning. Then they took help of the wolf to smell the direction they went off to. While they followed the direction for a while, Agni and Fail were here in the springs, which looked really beautiful and all. But Fail was worried if they could find their way back after coming this far. Agni was confident in her eyes and nose, so they'll be fine, but it just worried Fail even more since they are here because she woke up Agni for fluffy creatures. Soon enough, Agni smelled something weird. It was a very unpleasant beastly stench, which just troubled her nose a lot suddenly. They decided to check out what it could be, and in a few moments, Fail noticed something was moving in the bushes nearby. However, Fail saw Agni almost losing consciousness from the stench, and she wanted to take a break. Fail didn't know Agni's condition would end up like this, which made her think if a monster is behind it. She apologized for being the reason for them coming all the way here, and she just wanted to cheer up Agni, since she seemed down from Coco birds, still not warming up to her. Agni thanked Fail for thinking of her, and mentioned she wanted to tame Coco birds to be useful to Lord Rest. Fail knows that very well, including how much Agni wanted to be friends with them as well. Agni can't deny that. Then Fail cheers her up, saying Agni's very reliable already, and her cooking is great as well. So she thinks Agni is already amazing enough, but Agni thinks of herself as a failure because she can't protect Lord Rest in troublesome times since she's not good at martial arts, even though she's a half-beastman. She mentions having an older brother who is totally opposite of her and is good at everything a servant should be good at, while she was just clumsy and she wouldn't be surprised if she had been kicked out. It was only after Lord Eliza praised her cooking that Agni felt confident and started serving as a maid better than before. Suddenly, Fail confirmed something really is there behind the bushes, and right then, Rest and others also arrived after following Fail and Agni. Fail was glad to see them here. And just then, something from bushes came straight at them, at a high speed. Rest quickly went over and stepped in front of Agni and Fail, and the beast with a horn stopped right before them. Rest have heard of a beast with a horn from Kita before. They are called unicorns, who are docile to women but violent to anyone else. And it is said, many people die every year from their rampages. He feels a bit worried from this situation since from what he knows, the unicorn definitely hates him. But then Coco called out unicorn as the holy beast he was talking about before, which came out pretty unexpected. Rest turned to ask Coco if he is sure this beast is really a holy beast, despite being a unicorn. Then unexpectedly, the beast spoke up, correcting Rest that he is not unicorn, but a unicorn. Rest was caught off guard by an unexpected turn of events, seeing a monster speak. Then Unicorn explained that unicorns are dumb and they just pointlessly take the lives of innocent people as well. Unlike them, he, a unicorn, is very sensible and doesn't attack anybody randomly. And just in case, the unicorn makes it clear his imagination won't run wild even if he were to see 2 or more women at once. Alright, that came out pretty unexpectedly. Then, Unicorn mentioned it had been watching girls Fail and Agni from afar and had been mesmerized by their beauty. But Tareen clearly remarks the Unicorn must have been peeking at them with naughty eyes. Unicorn denied he's not a vulgar-minded being, but everyone pretty much knows it's in the open now. And that aside, Rest mentions to Coco that the holy beast can talk. Coco was also surprised by it, as it never heard it talk, and moreover, to think it was looking at a woman in a naughty way was pretty surprising. Unicorn recognized Coco from the village of Elves, and he requested him to keep this a secret, because it would ruin his mystique as the holy beast. However, now that they met Unicorn, everyone knows he's quite a chatty beast, and that aside, Unicorn admits it's a bad habit of his that once he starts talking, he can't stop. Because of this, he even kept quiet when he met elf village people for the first time, and deliberately kept distance from them. Because of that, it's been really long since he conversed with anyone. Fail sees him with a bit pity. As Unicorn adds a long time ago, this whole area was teeming with monsters, but every time he tried to talk to them, they eventually got tired of his spontaneous never-ending talks and stopped coming anywhere near him. Rest realizes Unicorn went through a lot, and also learns that long ago, Unicorn even tried to call out maidens from Elf Village, but then his heart was broken by what they said next, which exactly what Agni thinks of him, that it literally stinks and smells awful. Unicorn was broken-hearted again by hearing it from her, and decided to just leave, but Coco stopped him and said he wanted to talk to Unicorn more, if it's fine with him. He was excited to hear all the stories Unicorn has, including stories of the past elf village, and he's sure just like him, others from the village would like to hear him as well. But Unicorn worries his smell would still be a deal-breaker, and Rest tried to ask maids if they would be alright with this much smell. But they clearly showed disgust, which means it wasn't that simple. He decided to try an idea, to wash off the Unicorn, and Tareen assured them they'll wash him up properly. Unicorn was excited to think a maiden would really do that, but if that happens, her pure body might become defiled by him. Still, he didn't want to miss this opportunity, but then his heart was shattered when he found out Rest would be the one to wash him. Agni clearly won't even consider coming anywhere near him, which upset the poor horse, and he told them that he even tried to wash up every day and literally started living around the spring for that very reason, so that he won't smell when he meets a maiden one day. But now here he was, failed after all the baths and even trying to apply scents from herbs by rolling over them. Once the thorough bath was done, Unicorn was looking all clean and elegant, but the smell only disappeared like 0.01% from earlier, which didn't help much at all. Tareen then suggested they could try applying perfumes to mask the beastly scent, and Unicorn was up for it if a maiden was the one suggesting it, after which she told Rest all the ingredients she will need, but they don't seem to have the last one. She drew it for him, but he doesn't think anything like that even exists on the planet, since her drawing is pretty terrible. She calls it Severia flower, and when he tried to process it with his craft skill, it didn't work out. Unicorn saw the problem and looked at Tarini, then asked her to hold his horn. She was shocked by the sudden request, and Agni was pissed off at this horse making weird fetish requests. Unicorn would actually love for a maiden to touch his horn, but actually he had an ability which allows him to see the thoughts of who touches the horn. So he wonders if he knows how that Severia flower looks and could help by reading her thoughts. Rest thought he should give it a try, but Unicorn stopped him since he doesn't like a man touching it at all. Rest thought Unicorn was just being shy, while Fail was excited about it, so she straight up touched the horn and asked what she was thinking right now. Just the sight of Unicorn's pleased face disgusted Agni. Then Unicorn stated, Fail was thinking about sweets and Agni's chiffon cake. Fail confirmed that was exactly what she was thinking, and now that it was confirmed Unicorn really has that ability, Tareen decided to give it a try, and she warned Unicorn firsthand to not read any other memory than flowers. Unicorn promised to keep a maiden secret, after which she touched the horn. She kinda liked the warm horn, and Unicorn wished she would squeeze harder. Eventually, Tareen lost her cool and beat the shit out of that played horse. And Unicorn immediately replied he did see those flowers bloom in a nearby cave. It was good news, and everyone decided to head out right away to find those flowers. Coco recalls this cave when they arrived at us, something the elves were told to never come near to. Tareen mentions it must have been because of the effects of Severia flowers, since their strong scent could also put someone to sleep. Now, Rest decided he and other adults will go and pick them up, while maids will have to wait here. They entered the cave, Rest, Agni, and Tareen, and eventually they found the flower field within the cave. It was really unexpected to see such a beautiful sight of a flower field in a place like this. Rest wished Kita could have seen this too. Agni suggested why don't they pick some flowers to take home as well, since they will brighten up the dining table too. Tareen thought it was a great idea. In that case, Rest stored away enough flowers they needed without disturbing the scenery of this place. However, he noticed a slight earthquake right then and soon enough even heard a voice screaming for help, which means someone must be in trouble, probably from Coco's village. He quickly rushed over, assuring the worried girls he'll be fine by himself and will bring them back at the entrance later, where Unicorn, Fail, and Coco were waiting for them. Back to Lord Rest, he saw someone was hanging down the cliff with their life in danger. Just then their hand slipped off the rock and they fell down. Rest immediately used his craft skill to form a hand made of ground and caught her just in time. The elf girl was surprised her fall stopped quite strangely without her getting hurt, and when Rest asked her if she's okay, she realized he saved her. He was glad he made it in time and introduced himself to her. The elf girl was already mesmerizing by the charm of her savior as she grabbed his hand and introduced herself as Astoria. Later, everyone else spotted when Rest returned, and Coco realized that his sister was also with Lord Rest for some reason. Astoria was very much moved to have finally found her brother Coco and hugged him, saying how much she's been looking for him all this time. Coco told her he actually got hit with the Slate of Flower curse, but Lord Rest saved her. Astoria was amazed as she found out Rest also saved her brother, and after this reunion, they moved on to craft the perfume with Severia flowers and used it on the holy beast. Unicorn came out with his new scent and asked girls how it is now. They replied the stinky stench was gone and Unicorn should keep rubbing this perfume once a month from now on. Unicorn was finally not hearing the same insult from the maidens. Then Agni pointed out, how will the holy beast apply it himself, since he's a horse, you see? Coco offered to help out with that, and he's sure everyone else from the village would also love to take care of the holy beast. Astoria thinks the same. It'd be an honor for sure. Hearing that Unicorn was moved and asked them if they will really accept him. They happily agreed with him, and seeing how things turned out for good made everyone happy. Afterwards, they visited the elf village together, and Unicorn was just like, "Yo, Chief, what's up? Long time no see." And the chief was also casual with greeting the holy beast, following up with a question, when did they speak last time? Unicorn reminded him it was when he was still a young man, and while they chatted, Rest was kinda surprised to see the chief knew Unicorn and his ability to speak all along. Now fast forward, Rest and his maids helped out making and teaching others about the cure for Slate of Flower curse. And at first, they found it hard to believe until Coco vouched for it, as he got his own curse cured. This new discovery will surely expand the range of their hunts further, and they thanked Lord Rest for doing so much for them. Rest was easy to talk to, and he let them help them if they ever needed any help in future as well. Coco went and greeted his father. They had a happy reunion, and Rest's efforts were worth it since both the Holy Beast and Coco were accepted in the village. However, it kinda worries him when he wonders if he'll ever have to face his father someday too. Agni told him this island is already his home, so he doesn't need to worry about anything else. Rest felt light after hearing that, and decided to do his best from now on to fulfill his duties as the lord of this island. First, he wanted to have a formal talk with Elves, but before that, Astoria called him out for lunch, hoping he'd join them. Rest noticed she had changed to more casual clothes, and he didn't notice her beast ears before. She told him she's a beastkin, which kind of confused him since she was Coco's older sister. She just took them home, while sharing her past how she just happened to drift ashore on this island, and villagers helped her out, especially Coco's family, who accepted her as their own daughter. Rest learned more about her, that she's from the Beastkin country, the Gora Empire. Astoria claims she was actually the Empire's third princess, but she broke off the engagement and ran away. Rest knows it kinda makes sense since many people practice political marriages. She mentioned that she would rather live her life freely, fall in love and get married to someone she likes. Rest kind of understands her, since he also came here seeking freedom, but out of nowhere, she straight up asked Lord Rest to marry her. This came out pretty unexpected, not just for Rest but for his maids as well. While Astoria seemed pretty serious about it, he kind of took some distance and asked if she really meant a marriage, like a marriage, But right then someone came shouting, "Wait up, you guys!" Rest turned around and saw the guy who interrupted them approach, only to declare his name, Van, and also asked how dare a guy lay a hand on his dear sister. Astoria tried to stop her raging brother, but he just told her to stay out of this, as he drew his sword and challenged Lord Rest for a duel right away. According to his country's rules, only the strong can marry, so he wanted to see if Rest was strong enough to be worthy of his sister. Fail couldn't take any insult to Lord Rest, so she announced she'll fight Van in Lord Rest's place as his servant. Van told her not to blame if she got hurt, and just like that, both of them took their places against each other for a duel. Rest and others wanted them to stop because it's too dangerous, but Fail simply taunted Van, saying he should surrender while he can. Van dared her to come at him from anywhere. Fail didn't show any mercy and jumped right at him, and the next moment a loud thud sound was heard, with Rest and gang worried faces. The outcome was, Van got defeated overwhelmingly without even putting up a fight. An easy win for Fail. Van took some time to process what even happened. Fail mentioned she already warned him about it. We all know Fail is the only disciple to have been taught martial arts by Kita, and since no one can match him in a one-on-one fight, his disciple won't be easy either. Fail calmed down and offered a hand for Van to get up, but unexpectedly, even this rude beast guy turned docile and asked her to marry him. This just made the situation even more complicated, and everyone thinks something is really wrong with these siblings. Later, they went to Cortico's home, and Astoria apologized to Rest for startling him out of nowhere with that proposal. It's just her feelings that got ahead of her. Rest chuckled and said he didn't really mind it, but then on the other hand, Van there was fixated on becoming Fail's apprentice. Fail wasn't really sure about it, and told him it's fine to be just friends instead. Van was glad to hear that, and he immediately became her self-proclaimed apprentice, even going so far as to call her master from now on. Agni could see the direction of this conversation was going slightly off. Then Tareen simplified things and stated, in any case, it's good to see everyone's on good terms. Cortico then asked Rest to stay over tonight, and his father also wished the same, as he wanted to show proper gratitude for his children's savior. Rest didn't want to be impolite, so he accepted the offer, and Cortico was glad he would also get to stay with big sisters. Then, unexpectedly, Unicorn also joined the conversation, saying he too would like to stay the night, especially if it's with those maidens, and he got a lot to talk about with them. Rest thought it would be really great to hear stories of the holy beast, but Unicorn didn't want to do anything for a guy. It's only an offer for maidens. Rest went kinda quiet, seeing which other maids simply said they should call the night and wished good night to them. It left the poor holy beast with guys like Rest and Van, and the guy-hating beast had to bathe with them before heading off to sleep. The next day, Rest asked the village chief about this island, and how long has this village been here, and were there more outsiders in the past? After getting answers to those, Rest shared his story with them, as to how he came here to this island as its lord. He learned this village was actually of mixed breeds who were casted off by pure blood elves in the past. Both sides seem to have gone through a lot of hardships, and Rest thanked them for sharing their story with him. Further, he asked if they would like to help him out in investigating this island. The village chief happily complied with him, and he didn't seem to mind Rest as the lord. After that, Rest went to Astoria and said he would like to check out the cove where past explorers landed, so he asked her if she could show him the way. She agrees without minding at all. Then Van mentions that the place they are talking about has a pretty place to swim as well. Tareen reminds them they should also plan on heading back soon, since Kita would worry if they take so long. Rest nods to that, then Cortico offers to inform Kita that he'll be late in his place, so Rest can check out the cove first. He wanted to do it as thanks for his help earlier, but Rest didn't want to let Cortico leave out there alone like that. Just then, Unicorn brings his head in, asking if they are talking about a maiden. Agni is annoyed by this holy beast's unholy behavior, but then Unicorn offers to go there to meet that supposedly maiden named Kita, which is a misunderstanding. He immediately asked Cortico to sit on his back, since Unicorn could fly them there in an instant. Agni decides to leave his misunderstanding like that and requests dear Unicorn to take care of Cortico on the way. Her sweet words melted Unicorn in an instant, and he left right away, stunning Cortico with him. And now, the rest of the gang also decided to set out for the cove right away. When they arrived at the entrance of the cave, Rest was excited to investigate this place, and he also seemed to have some device with him as they entered the cove. The map of the entire area around the village of Elves was as follows, including the springs, the Severia flower cluster, the cove, and all. Since it was dark ahead, they lighted up torches and lamps, only for Rest to notice the whole area seemed like a maze. Van assured he knew the way around here and guided them straight to the area he mentioned with a lake. Everyone got changed right away, and it was Tareen who made these swimsuits for everyone. They wasted no time in jumping right into the water to swim, and while everyone else was enjoying it, Tareen helped Astoria with her outfit, and she went over to ask Rest how she looks. Rest told her she looks good in it, and so does Agni in her outfit. Astoria asked Rest why don't swim with them. Rest mentions he got some surveying to finish first, in which case she would like to know if there's anything she can help him with. He asked her and Agni if they could help out with something, after which they went somewhere around and reached a spot with lots of fishes swimming in the water. With so many fishes here sucked up because of the small vortex below this cove, Rest thinks the mechanism of this place might be affected by some mysterious power. He decided to investigate it all from this point, so he brought out the device he brought for just the thing. Agni asked him what it was. Rest explained it's a space magic detector he got from the village chief, and apparently it belonged to the survey team from the past, but it was broken so they had to drop it. Rest easily fixed it with his craft skill, and he explained further that those explorers eventually stayed here after being stranded by the main team due to sudden orders of return. Now, he asked Agni to plug the detector in there so he could take readings. Astoria told him Coco was actually descendant of that research team, which explains why he found it easy to approach humans, and also why the villagers accepted them so easily. Earlier, he thought elves would still be quite cautious towards royal people like them, as he heard the reason for the half-elves' persecution from their past villages was just that pure bloods hated mixed bloods because they thought it would harm the population of pure bloods of their race. So over time, they kept treating half-elves like slaves, eventually persecuting them off. Moreover, their arrival on this island happened to escape the discrimination and gain freedom, so he can't just go on and say he will be their lord just like that. He knows the value of freedom as well, since he himself came seeking just that, and wouldn't want to take away their freedom and rule over them. Other than that, he still could not think of a way to live without disturbing each other's lives under his sole kingship. Agni and Astoria figure it should be fine eventually, since they know Lord Rest is a kind person who will care for his people. He thanked them for their praises, and soon Van and Fail returned with some fishes they caught. Tareen and Agni prepared to grill them for everyone, following up with a tasty fish party. Van asked Rest if he found anything with that device he brought. Rest replied, "The magic in this cove seems much stronger and more dangerous than Elders said, so they need to report it to Elders later." They decided to return after eating this. When they got back to the elf village, the village chief thanked Rest for checking out the cove for them, and with this, they could finally become Lord Rest's subjects in peace. Rest asked if it's really okay with them, deciding this easily about something so important. The village chief replied they were already chased out and had nowhere to go when they came here. So, he has always prepared himself to either become subjects of anyone who will come to rule this island, or be prepared to fight if they were a tyrant. Rest guaranteed he'll not try to become a tyrant, and the village chief knows he won't have to worry about it either. He shook hands with their new lord, looking forward to working with him. Astoria and Agni seemed pretty happy with this development, since they would get to play with each other often this way. Meanwhile, Coco traveled all the way to Rest's home, flying over Unicorn, and once they arrived, Unicorn landed down and walked slowly towards the mansion. Unicorn couldn't wait to meet Miss Kita, while Coco was impressed by how short the trip was. Kita had sensed them, so he came out himself and greeted Coco, noticing Lord Rest wasn't there with them. At the same time, Unicorn noticed there don't seem to be Miss Kita around here, and hearing his name, Kita asked what it was, claiming he is Kita. It was the moment Unicorn realized he had been fooled, completely, while Coco simply informed Kita about Lord Rest's recent activities. Kita learned of Rest and others investigating the cove, and Coco also brought flowers collected by Lord Rest earlier. And aside from that, Kita thought it's an honor to meet a holy beast like this. He could sense the aura around Unicorn, deserving of one, and he would like to hear his story. Unicorn was pleased to see someone interested in his story, and they talked a lot, as if they became friends real quick. Later that night, Rest and others returned and learned Kita talked with the holy beast for hours, and Kita welcomed them back, asking how everything went. Rest assured it was all right, and asks how Kita liked talking to the holy beasts. Kita reports it wasn't anything out of place, but they both know he must have had a fruitful discussion. Now, there's something the rest wanted to consult Kita with. Then Tareen lets them know they should move to the coming area and talk over tea, to avoid waking up Coco. Rest liked the idea, and Agni also decided to prepare dinner as well. Later, once the dinner was prepared, everyone had their mouths full because they had been tired from the exhausting day. Rest was impressed by the juicy taste of vegetables they brought from the elf village, and moving on to the main topic he wanted to consult Kita for, he expresses his wish to build a road connecting to the elf village. Since they can't travel as fast as the holy beast, it would also allow them to freely travel between village and home, also allowing them to get fresh vegetables. Not just that, but they will also be able to meet Van, Astoria, and Coco without any worries. He wanted some advice here and there from Kita, since he wanted to avoid harming the forest by building a bridge above trees. Kita asked for one night to study and come up with some designs. Rest decided to check materials he got in the meantime, counting on Kita with Rest. Next day, Kita prepared blueprints, and Rest was happy it's exactly what he needed. He scanned the blueprints with his craft skill and immediately started building the foundation of the bridge. Unicorn was impressed by Lord Rest's craft skills, and it's truly remarkable how Rest can just absorb soil and all whichever comes in the way demand use it back in a more efficient manner. Maids and Coco keep observing him from the sides, as Rest have slowly started forming the structure of bridge-type road over the forest. Coco thought it'll take an instant for him to finish the whole road, but Rest replied since his range is limited, he will have to repeat the same process over and over. Maids prepared the snacks and meals they will need in between the break, and soon enough the supports for the bridge were finished. Unicorn didn't expect that Rest was quite determined after all and gets things done for real, unlike what he thought of him before. And while Rest thanks him for the compliment, Agni points out it wasn't one. Rest went back to work and kept at it until he finally finished the road from his manor to all the way to Elf Village. After the road was finished, villagers started using it right away and they moved around a lot of stuff for starters. The village chief exchanged his fresh vegetables with Rest, while Coco requested if he could get some freshly baked Sivan and Astoria. The former third princess and crown prince of Gore Empire also came to meet Lord Rest through the road, and the development between two places kept advancing over time. In the midst of all that, some new figures seem to have noticed the recent changes on the island, while it remains unknown where they are from. The scene shifts to the kitchen, where, like usual, Agni is helping out Astoria with learning how to bake cakes. But she doesn't seem to have grasped how to control her strength in the kitchen and thus mess things up. Agni figured it'll take Astoria some time to learn. Astoria asks her if baking is really supposed to be this difficult, especially since she has trouble dealing with her beastman strength. She's not really used to delicate work, and at this rate she's disappointed thinking she might not become worthy to be Bridge of Lord Rest. Agni thought about possible solutions for Astoria's strength, and got an idea. Why don't they have Astoria better her hand at bread first? Once she explained to her about breads, Astoria was on board, although a bit worried if she could really manage it. She started off with preparing the ingredients right away, hoping Lord Rest would love the bread made by her. Agni supervised her progress in kneading the bread, and assured Astoria that Lord Rest would really be pleased by her bread. Astoria was over the clouds when she imagined the time she would become an amazing cook and make Lord Rest happy with her cooking. As his wife, she thought he would find her delicious as well along with her breads, which made her thoughts running wild, and she ended up putting too much strength in kneading, messing it up as well. Astoria still had a long road ahead of her. Then Tareen arrived and asked, why don't Astoria try making some perfume with her for a change of pace? Astoria wondered how it'll help. Tareen told her a lovely fragrance would really make her more pleasant. Astoria imagines what if she applies perfume on herself before a date with Lord Rest, which might really just work things out for her. She quickly took the perfume lessons from Tareen to prepare for a date, and Tareen showed her all the good perfumes she discovered and how to make them, and one of them piqued her interest. It has a mature fragrance, and Tareen tells her that one is supposed to be for an intimate time when one is alone with their beloved. Astoria can't help but imagine being alone with Lord Rest, where after a good date, he would want to spend a little more time together, claiming he doesn't want to let her go. If that happens, she would lose her sanity, just like how she loses control in reality right now and immediately decides to head over to Fail for trying laundry. Later, she talks to Fail about how Astoria keeps messing up again and again, just because she's too strong. Fail could see Astoria is really feeling beat up, so she cheers her up, then asks for her help in laundry. Astoria thought she would be fine in it, since she can lift heavy clothes just fine. And once she brings clothes over with ease, she asks Fail what's next. After laundry, Fail asks her to fold the clothes and start off with Lord Rest's shirt over here. Astoria holds Rest's clothes in her hands, then imagines again, him removing his sweaty clothes, which again makes her imagination run wild and think of lewd stuff. She ends up tearing Rest's shirt with her uncontrollable strength, and immediately falls into deep guilt over tearing Rest's clothes. Everyone else cheers her back up, saying she doesn't need to worry since Rest won't get mad over torn clothes since he could just fix them with his skill. Right then, Lord Rest arrived, smelling something good must be prepared for the meal. The moment Astoria sees him, she freezes, urging him to ask what's wrong. She claims it's nothing, but then Tareen told him everything, about how Astoria is worried because she can't do anything useful. Rest told her she is the princess of Gar Kingdom, so he doesn't think it's a problem if she can't cook or do laundry. But Tareen understands a maiden's heart. Who would want to do anything for the man she loves? Rest was clueless about it, while she explained it is indeed the case, and every girl loves to please their beloved with their affectionate actions. Van knows his sister got quite an imagination with that strength of hers. Then Fail points out another issue, that their utensils are a bit easy to break for Astoria, so they need more utensils, one that won't break easily. Rest thought about it, And Agni also agreed with that approach, since if Astoria wanted to keep practicing at this rate, they would run out of pots and other utensils. Rest thought if they were to make some sturdy tools, they would need to use stronger metals instead of wood. Kita then suggested Mithril might do the trick, considering Astoria's beast strength, but Rest is kind of worried because it is rare and valuable ore. Kita admits it won't be easy to find indeed. Then Van recalls something and tells everyone he heard about Mithril back in village, so the village chief might know where to find it. Rest decided to pay a visit to the elf village in that case and look for Mithril. Tareen tells Astoria it seems like a date, since she will be going together with Lord Rest. And so, they set out for the village of Elves, through the road built recently to help Astoria continue her journey to become the perfect bride she wants to be. Kita was driving the carriage, while Rest in the back told her they could enjoy this like a date. Astoria was glad she got to be alone with him, and her brother Van had avoided tagging along this time to give them privacy. Tareen claimed she got other stuff to work on, while Agni just helped out with preparing a bento and gave it to Astoria. Fail was also with them here, as their maid, and Tess looked forward to enjoying this trip. However, he questioned why Kita tagged along when it was supposed to be a date, to which Kita responds it's because they are going to investigate Mithril, which isn't just any other metal. Rest don't think too much of it, since they are going to be making just some cookware, but Kita reminds him the value of Mithril, just a single plate of it is worth enough to last a month for a family of 4 luxuriously. And if they can excavate it, it could also become a precious source of funds for the island, which will serve the future of this island. But Rest wasn't interested in that for now and just focused on food with the girls, lightly listening to Kita's words. Once they arrive in the elf village, Kita meets Cortico's father and asks him about Mithril. He replies having heard of Mithril to be found in one of the caves in the cove, and now that they got a lead, Rest decided to check it out. Mithril was known to be a metal which could also repel magic, so that's why one couldn't explore it with help of magic, rendering it tough for elves. Rest traveled all the way to that cave with Astoria, and the dark atmosphere here made him feel like this is some test of courage. Astoria didn't know what that was, Rest told her. It's like a game, where one explores a dark mansion with artificial ghosts and all which are supposed to scare the customers. She found the idea interesting, until Fail suddenly scared her for real as a prank. As they advanced further, it was getting dark, so Rest asked Astoria to hold his hand, and since it's him, she immediately complied without any hesitation. She was extra careful not to squeeze his hand too hard. Rest assured her it'll be fine and smiled while looking at her giving it her best. Kita finds it a bit intriguing, so he asked Lord Rest out of curiosity if he had any girlfriends during the academy days. Rest replied he actually had plenty of them, which leaves Kita shocked, as he didn't know just what kind of activities Rest used to do all the time in academic days. Earlier it was picking like a thief, and now it's his girlfriend's experience. Fail finds it awesome Lord Rest was so popular, but Kita can't overlook this. Rest told him it's not that weird since he is a noble. But Astoria, on the other hand, is worried after hearing that story and subconsciously grabs his hand a bit too tight. When he calls her out for it, she apologizes for the right grip. Then Rest tells her they should just enjoy exploring since they are here now. They went further into the caves and Kita informed them when they arrived at the location told to them. Apparently, he heard that when elves tried to use their magic to form a path, their magic stopped working around this spot, which confirms for Rest that there must be Mithril behind this spot. He gave it a try to absorb it with his craft skill and immediately sucked in a large chunk of rock from in front of them. Rest is amazed his skill worked flawlessly even on Mithril, and the storage skill confirmed that he did absorb some Mithril along with the dirt. While Astoria was impressed, Fail pointed out there seems to be another cave behind the rocks that Rest just absorbed, so they decided to explore a bit further and kept walking and walking, until they noticed some tools, cups, dishes, and carved spaces like shelves. Kita confirmed it seems to be made by Mithril, and Rest gets the idea someone probably lives here. After a minute, Rest noticed something up ahead, which turned out to be a person, seemingly pissed off by their presence. Everyone got startled by it, and Rest immediately told everyone to run, as that figure charged at him with a shovel. However, Kita noticed the guy and thought of something, as he stopped before him and started stomping his feet as if giving a message to that guy in another language. The strange guy replied with the similar leg stomp pattern, while Rest is clueless what is even going on. After a minute, Kita tells Rest that the strange guy is actually a dwarf, and what he was doing by kicking legs on ground was dwarven greeting. He had an old adventurer friend who knew a lot of stuff, so he also remembered some of it. Although he doesn't know how to converse properly, at least he successfully showed they are not hostile. Rest noticed the broken plate behind him, which seems to be caused by his absorb skill, and the dwarf was mad at him for the same reason. He reached out his hand and fixed the plate with his craft skill, which left the dwarf pleased and not mad anymore. Then Dwarf looked at him with a strange look in his eyes, and Rest thinks he seems to be expecting something from him. Afterwards, the dwarf brought out a sculpture, and Kita explained that since dwarfs are known for craftsmanship, each dwarf has a mastermind, and they become fully fledged by creating a sculpture of their master. And it seems the dwarf would like to have Lord Rest make a sculpture for him made of mithril, since he seems to have failed multiple times at it. Rest isn't really sure he could make it, so Kita suggests Rest could use this chance to absorb more mithril from the failed ones and try his hand at creating a proper sculpture in return. Just like that, they obtained the mithril and returned back to the elf village. Coco and his father didn't expect the dwarves to also live on this island and then seemed to be living for longer than them. Kita recalls dwarves don't usually remain at one place, which serves as proof that the area is a mithril vein. That's why they are staying there. By now, Rest is also done with crafting a pan made of mithril and giving it to Atoria, and she's hopeful she won't break it. She tried to apply some force and managed to bend it, but that's as far it goes. It's a success since she could still use it, but then Kita told Lord Rest that items he makes out with mithril are purely mithril, without any alloys mixed. And even if he were to sell such a highly pure mithril out there in market, it'll be really amazing and rake in a lot of profits for them. But Rest don't feel like it, and Fail could see he lacks motivation for anything that is too tiring in his eyes. Moreover, Rest don't think it'll be proper to mine mithril while dwarves live there, not wanting to snatch their freedom away, since just like him, they are also living beings who want to live leisurely, in peace. The next day, Tareen was unexpectedly playing the flower game. He likes me not. And when she ended up coming out with the positive petal in the end, she was really overjoyed, and seeing her like that made Fail curious what's wrong with her. Just then, Lord Rest arrived and requested Tareen for some tea, but when she didn't answer, Fail went and told him she would do it instead. Rest didn't mind it, but he questioned what happened to Tareen. Agni told him something happened last night when Tareen went to pick some herbs and she ended up seeing someone there. She went to check out who it could be, and it turned out to be a young man. She apologized for interrupting and was curious about his name, but the guy just simply requested her to forget she ever saw him here today. But it was clear she developed a crush for the man and obviously can't forget him. But the guy just left, telling her to forget it like some bad dream and they'll never meet again. She tried to stop him, but the guy quickly vanished from her sight, leaving her thinking if it was some hallucination. But she won't think of it like that when her heart was left pounding like that. Rest had his tea while hearing out the story, and he doesn't recall seeing anyone on the island with such looks. Agni didn't see anyone like that either, but whenever she asked Tareen if such a person truly existed, Tareen stuck to her statement and claims she even found a button dropped by that person when he was leaving. Atoria liked her dreamy story and would like to hear more of it, while Tareen can't stop talking about that guy. Meanwhile, Agni had to work on everything else now, so she went to feed Coco birds. She noticed the small chicks have gotten bigger now, so they probably need to be named, and she still likes the cute fluffy ones a lot. Right then, she noticed there was someone else here as well, so she went to check who it was. The person came out from hiding, and it was the same young man, who Tareen claims to have seen, but Agni wonders why that man is wearing the clothes of Kita. The guy came out clear that he was actually Kita, and the thing is he has a rejuvenation skill, but he hasn't told anyone about it since she started serving Lady Eliza. However, this is the first time his skill ran wild, and he can't get back to normal. She has been using this skill in secret all these years, since having a younger body allowed him to work more freely and energetically with physical labor as well, but he hasn't been able to get back to normal now despite multiple attempts. Just then, someone mentioned it in simple words. His skill went berserk, which is common for old people. It was the holy beast Unicorn, and he saw and heard everything from the sky that Kita said. Kita asked the holy beast for some solution, since he must be very knowledgeable. Unicorn told him to just enjoy his youth form for a while, since he can't go back until skill automatically wears off. But Kita didn't want to let this interfere with his duties, so he decided to explain it honestly to Lord Rest. But Unicorn stopped him right away, because he knows Tareen's condition, and if she learns of this, she would be plunged into deep sorrow. So, Unicorn suggests it'll be better if he hides until his body returns to normal. Just then, Tareen came and saw him, which just ruined their plan, and she immediately called out to Rest and told him, this guy here is the person she was looking for. Rest greeted the guy and welcomed him to Eldova Island, following up with formal introductions as the Lord. Agni tried to make Lord Rest understand that this guy is actually Kita, and there's a reason for this appearance, but Rest thought it was just a prank, because he knows Kita isn't that young. Agni failed in clearing the misunderstanding, while Rest and Tareen took Kita inside for some tea. Unicorn laughs, as he states the situation leaves only both of them as partners in this secret. Agni scolds him for being creepy again, and for now, they should watch over how the situation plays out. Meanwhile, Rest was in the dining room when he suddenly wondered just where Kita went off to. Kita almost spilled tea out of mouth since he was literally in front of him, but Rest just explained that they have a butler named Kita, who is an irreplaceable family member to him. Kita asks him if he seems to trust his butler quite a lot. Rest states he is always worried that Kita would suddenly disappear, because even though he's always healthy, he is getting old, which worries him even more. Kita is moved by his words. Then Tareen states she will prepare some snacks for them. She then brings a jar, but then finds it too hard to open by herself, and she wonders what to do now. Rest takes out a whole tool he could use to open it, and Van was about to say, opening a jar is no difficult task for big sis Tareen, but then Astoria jabs him with her elbow, claiming it is indeed difficult for a frail girl to open it. Astoria understands Tareen is just giving hints to the person she likes, then Kita simply opens it for her. Astoria cheers for them, while Unicorn and Agni still observe them from afar, hoping nothing will happen from now on. But just then, she noticed Kita's hand slowly seemed to be turning back to normal, and even his face was halfway back to normal. It means the effect of his skill was wearing off, and at this rate, they won't be able to protect Tareen's feelings. Rest then remarks he wondered just where Kita went off to, right when they got guests here, and he thought he should punish him when he got back. Kita jumps at that, while Agni is relieved their Lord Rest is innocent enough not to notice the reality even now. Agni asks Holy Beast Unicorn what they should do now, then Unicorn randomly spouts the magic is wearing off, to give hints to Kita. Fail wonders what the beast is saying now, while Kita understands the situation and stands up, claiming it's almost time for him to leave. He thanked Miss Tareen for the pancakes and started leaving, but then she stopped him, asking if he's leaving already. She offered him to stay for a day here, and Astoria is amazed by how bold Tareen is. Then Rest comes and states if they kept their guest here, his family and village might worry. Tareen understood that, and Rest expresses to the guest that he would like to know more about him, both as a lord and as a friend. He asked him to visit them again when he wanted to talk, and seeing his smile, Kita simply smiled back and accepted his offer. Later, Kita went to the forest and soon his body completely returned to normal. Unicorn asks him if he enjoyed looking young. Kita simply replied that this skill didn't give him any good memories in his life, because whenever he used it in his younger days, this skill would turn him into a child only, and his party members would have him squeeze into narrow places only, and when they found someone better than him, they expelled him from the party out of nowhere. Kita tried to convince them to let him stay, but they just told him that's just how it is and left, knowing drawbacks and useless nature of his skill. That's why Kita never had good memories of this skill, but because of it, he was today able to see Lord Rest's face clearly, which isn't possible with old eyes. Moreover, he doesn't think Rest actually needs him now, since he was able to properly converse with elves back in their village and handle other duties by himself. Kita recalls the time when he became a servant under Lady Eliza, and she wanted him to tell his adventurer's tales to her son, and always take care of him. He wishes he could tell Lady Eliza that her son has become an admirable man. Later, Kita went back to him, and got scolded by Rest because of disappearing like that without contact. Kita apologized for his behavior. Then Tareen took his coat to leave him to rest. Then she noticed his coat was missing one button. Meanwhile, someone else seems to have arrived on the Eldova Island with some motives, and when his sailor asked him if he is really heading there, since it's just said to be a cliff with no one living there, the man replied he is going for sure, after which the sailor tells him this is as far as they can go and the man would need to travel the rest by himself. The man agreed while thinking of dragging back someone from this island, by force, if necessary. The next day, maids were out there in the garden when they saw Astoria sitting and reading some novel. When they asked her about it, Astoria replied, "It's a romantic story of a princess and a prince being torn apart." Tareen asked if it has a good ending, but Astoria hasn't read it fully so she can't say anything for sure. Fail notices her kettle is empty, so she decides to refill tea for her. But when she is heading back to the mansion, something moves behind the bushes and catches her attention. Fail thinks of checking it out, but then something suddenly emerges from it to catch her. Tareen and Astoria suddenly heard loud noises and decided to check it out immediately, only to find Fail having caught a suspicious person by force. They take the guy back to the mansion, and Agni asks the man who he was. He doesn't seem to be a resident of this island, and the man claims he's just a tourist, so he would like to be freed now. Fail asks the man if he promises not to do anything. He swears on it in fear, as if his lives depend on it. Rest asks Fail what she did to this guy. She claims to have just bumped him a little, and they could already imagine how it must have happened. Rest then took the guy to Kita, and it turns out Kita knows this guy. Kita states his name is Deer, and he never thought they would meet again like this. Kita questions Deer's real objective for coming here, knowing fully well it can't be just sightseeing Eldova Island. Deer knows Kita is too smart to be fooled, so he comes out clean. His goal is to bring back the third princess and crown prince of the Gore Empire. This leaves the two surprised as they never expected it to happen. Because they have been disinherited for ages, they don't have any reason to go back. But Deer doesn't know and doesn't care for reasons either, since he's only in it for reward. Kita is annoyed that these guys are still all about rewards, and Dr states that's natural, since he is an adventurer. Kita asks Lord Rest what they should do. Rest isn't sure yet. Astoria didn't want to get separated from Lord Rest, and Van didn't want to return either, since his master is here. Rest can't make those two do anything they don't want to, so he tells Dr clearly if he wants to stay here, he can. But Rest can't let him take those two away. Dr refused to back down, since it took him a lot of hardship to track those two all the way to this island. Agni asks if he simply wants something equivalent to the reward. Dr is all open for it. Fail pities him, as the guy seems to be having trouble making ends meet. Dr admits it is kind of like that, which makes Rest think of something. Then he comes to a conclusion and brings out something from his storage to give Dr. He states it's a high-quality red stone, which should be enough to replace the Empire's reward, and Dr thoroughly checks first to make sure it is a good quality stone. He admits it would indeed sell for a high price, but it still isn't enough to replace the Empire's reward. Kita decided to just sort the situation for free, and Dr cries for him to stop, adding that the Beastman would surely come for him if he doesn't return, in which case no one would benefit at all. Rest didn't want to bother others on this island, so he decides that since Dr seems to know the value of stones, he will show him around the island to check out other unusual minerals out there and verify their value. However, Astoria is worried if it would be okay to do this for their sake. Rest replied, "It's natural for a lord to protect his subjects on this island." Kita drives the carriage, with Fail, Dr, and Lord Rest in the back. Fail asks Dr why he broke anyway. He replied, "It's not exactly a good story to share, but..." Then Kita guesses it must be related to gambling. What else? Dr can't deny that, which pisses Kita off even more, and the only reason he is not kicking this guy off is because they were old acquaintances. Fail also teases Dr saying he deserves his current situation then. Later, Dr learns that the Road Bridge was made by Lord Rest's skill, and he has never heard of a gift capable of such scale. Kita scares off Dr, telling him to mind his words around Lord Rest and show proper respect, and Dr simply nods to him, saying he doesn't have to be so stiff all the time. Rest is curious about those two now, since they seem to be pretty close, and asks them about their adventurer days. Kita claims it was nothing worth talking about, but Dr goes right off saying that Kita used to get caught in his own traps often, and one time he even confessed to a gorgeous succubus. This part interested Kita, and he wanted to know more about it, and Fail shared the same excitement, not expecting Master to be the kind to actually confess to people. Kita told Dr to stop speaking now, and kept poking stares at him for the rest of the way. Later, they went to the springs to visit the Holy Beast, and Rest asks out loud that Unicorn is here. Unicorn replies with an annoyed voice who dares intrude upon his resting place, and when he sees a stranger face, he quickly warns him to leave right away. Dr, on the other hand, was amazed by a talking horse, and thought of ways he could make a fortune showing it off. Unicorn found this guy even more rude than Rest. Rest asks if he is really that impolite to him, since he thought they were friends. Unicorn agrees he is and tells him to just leave, but Rest still stays here, which made the Holy Beast question him why he came here. Rest stated that when he mined around this place earlier, he found some rare stones, so he wishes to dig some more since the guy behind him is broke. Unicorn straight up refuses, because this is his resting place. Rest asks him if he could reconsider for anything. Unicorn demands if Rest will build him a new nest in Elf Village, he might consider it. Rest asks Unicorn why don't he ask the elves himself, since the elders there already worship him. But Unicorn wanted to maintain dignity as the Holy Beast. Right then, they hear some noise of rocks from further in the cave, and when Rest asks about it, Unicorn replies he doesn't have any idea. But this noise has been disturbing his sleep for some time now. Rest now understands why Unicorn was in such a sour mood, but Unicorn simply claims his mood is totally ruined only because of Rest, nothing else. They heard the same noise, seemingly from digging from inside, and got alerted when the sound kept getting closer to them. Until then, saw an explosion right before their eyes. When the dust settled down, Rest saw the ones behind it were actually dwarves, and the dwarf Rest had met before recognizing him told their dwarf king about him. The dwarf king had a friendly look as he approached Rest and greeted him in their way. And seeing dwarfs here, Dr claims it's time for him to shine. He went ahead and greeted the dwarf king back in his language, and after introductions, he told Rest this here is Master of Dwarves, and he's here to apologize to Rest. Kita knows they can rely on Dr's translation, so they let him do the talking with Dwarf Master, while translating that the statue made by Rest earlier was actually supposed to be made only by his apprentice, and it was a sacred tradition of theirs. But his apprentice broke it, so now Master Dwarf wanted to apologize to him for his pupil's incompetence. And moreover, the master liked his work so much that he came searching for Rest, since he is so amazing. Rest modestly replied, "It's not him, but his skill that is amazing." Master Dwarf claims he liked the statue so much that he himself wants to be Rest's disciple, and in exchange give him as much mithril as he wants. Hearing that left DR in a big shock, and he shouts, "They are finally rich." Meanwhile, rest don't know what he can teach them when he should be learning from them instead. Kita mentions getting Mithril would be good, but he's not sure they can offer much in return at all. Fail also adds they could trade some sweets, but it still won't be enough. But Dayar got an idea and suggested, why don't they open up trades, where he will become their mediator and sell off Mithril outside the island, and he can also bring in food and other stuff islanders would want in exchange. Rest don't dislike the trading idea, but he is worried what if their Mithril catches the eyes of bad people and they trace it back to this island. It will put the island in danger, but DR assures his trade routes are secrets, so there's no chance of being found out. Kita asks DR then if he would turn down Gore Empire's request. Then he agrees and thinks it'll be better for everyone here. Rest agrees with him and says if he can handle trades, it'll be a huge help. He looks forward to working with dwarves in future and tells them they can talk to him if they have anything else to ask for. Unicorn thinks the world is really becoming a strange place, as even the likes of Rest are acting like a proper lord now. Although he kind of acknowledges Rest, knowing if it's him, he can really change this island for good. Right then, Rest felt exhausted and asked for a snack, which made Unicorn change his mind on Rest. After that, Deer reports back to the boat and guys on it that he didn't find the princess here, but he has decided to kind of live a slow life around here. The bunny leaves nonchalantly, claiming it should be fine for a human like him to live here, since humans aren't sensitive to miasma anyway. They just left, and one guy questions why birds don't fly around on this island. The other answers say it's because of the density of miasma, and it's said that ages ago, a colossal dragon fell here and its corpse still seeps magic to this day. Rest and others were unaware of this, and he just had a map of the island drawn, completely clueless of the curse of the dragon on this island. Later, Fail received a task from Rest to deliver a letter to the village chief of half-elves, and he counts on her as she leaves on a Coco bird, Tobakaj. Tareen and Astoria had to say Fail was truly energetic, and the way she and Tobakaj interacted truly make a great pair. Rest is glad Coco birds have grown bonded with everyone, and Tareen takes help of Bird Francoise for her herbs gathering. Astoria, on the other hand, takes help from Kurowashi for her tasks. Rest wonders if Agni also bonded with one, since she liked fluffy creatures. And around this time, Agni was actually checking up with Coco bird Alectore, since it's mealtime for him. She asks Alectore if he would like to take a walk after dinner, then Van arrives and asks her if she managed to ride her Coco bird yet. He and Cortico offered to help her if she needed it, and she accepted their help. They slowly guided her to try to saddle up Alectore, but when she held it, Alectore thought of it as a snake and ran away in fear. Cortico mentioned the reason he ran away, and they had to chase after him to calm him down. Around the same time, Kita apologized to Elder Tor, who is another half-elf from the village, for the noise and commotion out there, but he didn't mind at all. Tor works as assistant under the village chief, and while he and Kita were talking, Deer entered the room and suggested, why don't they host a Coco Birds race? Kita told him to focus on more important matters like trading ores, but Dyer ignores that and roots for Coco Birds race again, saying they could bet on them as well. Kita turned down this idea since it clearly looked like DR was suggesting gambling, but Rest, who just arrived here, likes the idea. Kita jumps at Lord Rest just accepting it like that, but Rest convinces him, saying it'll be fun and make the festival more lively. Deer states it'll also be a good exercise for Coco Birds. Later on, they announced the race Coco Birds to everyone, but Agni was still worried, since she hadn't ridden her Coco Bird yet. She wanted to ride him, then Van gave her courage, she could do it, and it'll be just fine. Agni is cheered up, and so she starts her special training under Cortico and Van, and one day, when she was about to fall down, Astoria caught her, remarking she will catch her if she were to fall any time. They kept helping her practice every day, since there was still a lot of time before the race. Rest is sure she would surely do it, and her special training kept taking place every morning without fail. Now Rest once recalls all the residents of Eldova Island and thinks that even though they are different in culture and customs, the races live together happily with no conflicts at all. The Master Dwarf and Village Chief liked Rest as their lord, while Rest kept making developments every day for the racetrack. The course finished before the festival, and all the residents of the island came to enjoy it. Rest and Deer were glad it's great weather today for the race, and Rest asks Kita what he thinks now, since everyone seems to be happy. Kita can't deny that, since everything was going well. The participants of the race were Fail, supported by Van, Tareen, supported by DR, Astoria, supported by Rest. She was very happy to have Rest cheering for her, and she imagined how sweet it'll be when he congratulates her for winning. She's already losing herself over it, and the last participant, Ani, also prepared with her bird Alectore, taking it slow. Rest asks Agni if she is okay. She confirms she's fine, and he tells her to not overdo it out there. She requests him to keep watching over her, and with all the participants being ready, the announcer, the village chief, told everyone that for anyone who guesses the correct winner, they will receive a year's worth of fruits and vegetables, and also receive a ticket to have any of their wish granted by Lord Rest, only for crafting. Now, he asked them to submit the paper with names of the racers they think will win. Cortico asks his father if he's excited as well. The answer is positive. Once everyone finishes the submissions, the participants wait before the signal and dashed right off when the race began. Rest waits on table, asking others who they think will win. Van says he voted for his master, Fail, and Rest also voted for her. Rest then asks the holy beast who he voted for. Unicorn doesn't answer and teases Rest, saying he thought Rest would vote for Astoria or Agni. Other guys also shared the names they voted for, mostly Fail, Astoria, and Tareen. Then Rest asked Kita who he voted for. Kita also voted for Fail, since she always had outstanding athletic ability, and she is actually running in the lead now too. Van then wonders, if none of them did, who did actually vote for Lady Agni, since she had one vote. Cortico claims he was the one to vote for Sis Agni. DR chuckles, saying that's quite the gamble, but Cortico believes she could really win, because he has been watching her practice so hard for this day, convincing him she will definitely take first place. Meanwhile, Agni was progressing slowly on the course. Then her bird Alectore suddenly stopped when a snake came in their way. She calmed down Alectore, saying she will drive that snake away. On another spot, Tareen was making progress when she suddenly saw a lake behind them and thought she might see that handsome man again there. She decided to take a little detour and went off course, which leaves the solid contenders being only Astoria and Fail, fighting at first and second spot. Fail was really fast, determined she won't give anyone the lead for even a second. But suddenly, she and her bird stumbles in the fence, leading Fail to fall down the course. When Astoria couldn't see Fail around the turn, she thought Fail was probably so fast she vanished out of sight from a distance. Meanwhile, Agni chased off the snake and comforted her bird, saying it's all fine now and he can get up. But then she notices Alectore had a scar on its leg, probably from the snake bite from when he was young, which makes sense now why Alectore is so afraid of snakes. She comforted him, slowly helped him get back up. But since he still seemed nervous, she didn't want to rush Alectore and decided to walk slowly by Alectore's side from here. Agni recalls the time when she was young and just became a servant under Lady Eliza. She was okay with Agni being slow at first and kept cheering her up, which makes Agni think Alectore is so much like her. She decided to slowly help him come out of his fears, just like she did. Someone seemed to be closer to the finish line, and Rest saw it was actually Astoria. He welcomed her back and told her she's almost at the goal, but she was too flustered after his warm welcome and ended up pulling the reins too hard, leading the poor bird to run in another direction. Kata could see Lord Rest unintentionally sabotage the poor Astoria's chance, and sometime later, Agni was in sight, and she seemed to be walking with her bird. She was completely clueless of the situation until Cortico congratulated her for coming in first place. Agni thought she would come in last, and now even if she won, everyone else seemed a bit quiet. Probably because they bet on other participants, and they were a bit frustrated with themselves for picking wrong, including Holy Beast and Rest. Everyone had a taste of defeat, except for the sole winner, Cortico, who received the prize of 1 year's food supply with a gift certificate. He thanked Agni for coming in first place, and she hadn't imagined it would turn out like this, making her blush happily. She then asked Cortico to ask Alectore for what he wants, since he's the real MVP. Next time, all the losers just decided to bet on only Coco birds, and Rest decided to prepare a complicated course for them, while only one person, Kita, worried where his disciple and Tareen went. With this, the day came to an end on the island. Next day, the scene shifts to the House of Dane, where the knights have prepared for departure with their lord. Right then, someone asks the Duke to wait, saying he would go instead, since they can't put Lord Vargas's life in danger. But Vargas, who seemed to have grown a lot now, denies he won't give up this chance and heads there in person to the Eldova Island to fix what his parents' fault that he couldn't stop before. He holds the power now that he has become head of the family, and his Professor Kanun also plans on following him there. Vargas also wanted to go and tell Rest as soon as possible, something about the island he is living on. Meanwhile, Van returns home just in time before the dinner, prepared by Tareen and Agni, and all the meals were more luxurious and delicious than ever. Agni mentioned the vegetables were from Twar, and meat was obtained through trades, made possible by DR. And for sweets, Astoria made them this time since she has gotten quite good at baking. However, Agni notices Rest and Fail don't seem to be around here yet. Van doesn't know either, since the last he saw them was in the afternoon when they went to bathe Coco birds. When everyone arrives searching for them, Tareen finds Lord Rest and Fail sleeping on the grass, and they look more like siblings instead of master servants. Tareen could see the home feeling on their faces, and she recalls how awkward and distant Fail was when she first served him. Kita and Agni also remember those times, and Van and Astoria wanted to hear more about it. How did those two meet? Tareen told them it was 5 years ago, when Kita introduced Fail to Lord Rest, saying she will be the new maid serving him. She was small and shy as she introduced herself, as Fail, while Lord Rest was casual about his introduction despite being next head of family. Kita always had to remind him to be formal and follow proper etiquette, and Rest would fix himself and talk to her formally sometimes. Fail didn't speak much while Rest was quite a talker, and Kita had to keep him on leash, making sure he behaves like a future head of family. But once Kita excused both of them, Rest dropped all formalities and made himself at home. Fail asked him if he needed anything. Rest asked her for some tea for starters. She obeyed and did her best to make good tea for him. But when he took a sip, it turned out to be kind of bitter. She got anxious as she apologized to him and was about to make a fresh cup. But Rest was all fine with it since he could just add some sugar now too. Later, he had an apple pie for a snack. And Fail always had a knack for snacks, so her eyes really grew bigger when she saw the pie. Rest simply asked her if she's hungry, but Failing couldn't be disrespectful in front of the Lord, so she stayed quiet. Rest could see she wanted it, so he offered her, saying it's fine since there's no nagging humans in the room right now, referring to Kita. But Fail was still reluctant since he was the next head of the family, thus Rest came up with an idea and ordered the next head of the family to have a snack with him. He asked if she would dare defy that, and the way he said it in a mature-sounding voice made her chuckle, because it was funny. Rest was relieved to see her finally smile, and he was honest to her that these kinds of formal things don't suit him, and he always thought he's not cut out to be the next head of family. Fail didn't know there were things he wasn't good at. Rest told her actually there were many, like stuffy parties, noble manners, and all the other formal stuff. He believed his brother-in-law was far more suited to be head of family than him. Then, he asked her if the pie was good. She liked the apple pie, but her formal reply made her tense up the very next moment. Rest told her it's fine, and she can be casual when it's just the two of them. Fail was innocent as she asked if that would be really okay. Rest agreed with her. Since then, they would maintain the facade of master and servant in public, and when in private, they were as close as siblings. Even in the middle of formal duties, whenever they were alone without other maids around, Fail would sneak in some snacks or cupcakes for both of them to eat together. Astoria found this story really cute. Then Kita mentioned that Fail's parents died when she was young, after which Lady Eliza took pity on her and took her in as a maid. Van didn't expect even his master had a tough time. Then Kita states that Lord Rest was very much like his mother, and he cherished Fail like his own sister and got along well with his brother-in-law as well. Van was surprised to hear Lord Rest have a brother-in-law. Kita agrees, and also adds that he is currently the head of Dane family. Not just that, but Lord Vargas also adored Rest, so it must have been lonely for him to live apart from Rest. Van could understand how it feels, since he wouldn't want to live without his sister either. Agni notices Lord Rest waking up, and Fail wakes up at the same time, both asking questions if it's morning already. Agni tells them it's actually dinner time, so they should hurry up for the feast. Later in the night, around the whole island, Unicorn was watching everything from the sky when he heard an immense magicule count and realized the whole island seemed to be shaking. He felt the urge to tell Rest and others about it immediately. Then he noticed some people walking in the dark road down there. From the people below, Spy also notices something in the sky and finds a horse flying in the sky. Unicorn is pissed. As he tells them humans to mind their tongues, he's no mere horse but a holy beast. After some time, at Rest's mansion, he hears sounds of door knocking and wonders who it could be at this hour. He opens the door, sees Unicorn, and closes the door, wishing him good night. When he realizes there was Vargas as well with Unicorn, he welcomes him, and Unicorn explains how he was on his way when he ran into these guys and brought them here. Tareen welcomed everyone, and Rest didn't expect his brother to come all the way here. Vargas claims he was worried about Rest, but here he seems to be living in such a magnificent mansion. And he also heard from the Holy Beast that Rest built that bridge and tower on the way as well. Rest says it was possible thanks to blueprints made by Kada, and more importantly, he asked Vargas for his purpose to visit. He made it clear Vargas was more than welcome here. But then Vargas cut straight to the main topic, mentioning it got something to do with the island. Over the tea, he explains that this island is not really owned by their kingdom, and Rest realizes immediately it means there's no owner of this island. Vargas confirms that's the case, and Rest must establish this island as a nation ASAP and inform other countries. Rest understands the importance of doing so, since this island is actively trading recently, so it could easily become a target. Rest thanks Vargas for letting him know that. Then Conan claims he could leave all the nation-building procedures and documentation to her. Rest thanked the teacher for help, and Van didn't expect that. Rest explained she used to be his mentor in academic days, and she's well-versed in law and archaeology. She was very casual and told Rest to just call her by name, Kanun. However, Unicorn behind is kind of annoyed and disgusted, as he can't stand succubi around, making it clear he only favors pure maidens. Then Rest asked Unicorn what did he want to talk to him about. Unicorn adds he doesn't like Rest either because of his too informal behavior towards him. Unicorn tells them about the anomalies happening on this island, and Kita tries to recall what's odd about it. Unicorn tells them the island is actually shaking, which comes out as a total surprise to Rest. Unicorn explains he feels the concentration of magic is overflowing on the island, which must be the reason behind the entire island shaking. Rest needs to do something about it, because if magic runs wild, it'll spread the miasma on the island even more. And if the concentration rises any further, it could prove to be dangerous for elves since they are susceptible to miasma, leading to many casualties. Kita suggests they should consult the village chief tomorrow, and Rest also thinks of how they should go about it. As Vargas sees his brother Rest having proper conversations with Kita, he feels happy to see him doing well. For today, they called it a day, and Rest asked Tareen to show everyone to their rooms. Meanwhile, Vargas and Rest came out to the terrace to look at the stars and enjoy this magnificent view here. Rest tells him this is one of his favorite spots on this island. Then curious, Vargas mentions he was worried thinking Rest might be depressed in a remote area like this. But it turns out he was wrong. Rest assured he's been living happily thanks to everyone. But Vargas, being a worrying brother, asks him again if he means it. Rest confirms again he is indeed really happy, and his smile puts him at ease. However, he himself doesn't seem to be all fine, as he states he can't really ask Rest to come back if he makes a happy face like that. Rest asked him if he came here to take him back actually, but Vargas denies that's not the case, hesitantly. Rest notices the hesitation and apologizes to his little brother for making him feel lonely, and Vargas can't really hide anything from him after all. He tries not to admit it, but Rest knows his brother better than anyone, and goes on to mention how Vargas used to cry a lot when he disappeared for a short time once. Vargas requests him not to mention that. It was a long time ago. Both of them laugh a bit. Then Vargas asks him if he could stay on this island for a while. Rest was all cool with that and told him he could stay as long as he likes. Vargas realizes again he can't be as cool as his brother, and they just enjoy the beautiful night sky for a bit, then go to sleep. Next morning, Rest left early for the elf village, and on the way, Rest got called out by Spy, asking him if his sister Agni was of any use to him. Rest answers she always support him, and if anything, he feels like he's causing her trouble. It puts Spy's mind at ease, and they keep traveling quietly for the remaining way, unaware of the messed up elf village up ahead. All the elves were caught off guard by overgrown trees overnight, and Coco asks Father what could have caused this. They don't know the answers, and right then Lord Rest and the Holy Beast arrived. They also noticed the abnormal change in the elf village, and Rest told them he might know something related to it. He explained the whole situation of the island and decided to block off the spot overflowing with magic with his craft skill. The village chief would really appreciate it, and firstly, Rest decides to fix the collapsed buildings here. He fixed everything up quickly with his skill, and it's a relief there were no casualties from miasma yet. Afterwards, Rest went inside the cove to find the spot overflowing with magic, and decided to seal it off right away before it spread any further. Once he sealed it with crafted containers, he figured it should do the work. Seeing him seal off such an overflowing magic hole surprised his mentor Kanun, and she had to say her students have grown a lot since his academic days. Rest accepted the compliments. Then his teacher mentioned it's deeply moving to see her cute student grow stronger and mature in the same life. Rest figures should head back now that they finished their work, but Kanun wanted to take a look around the cove to get a better grasp of its shape and condition. Rest decided to tag along to help her as well, and she noticed the whole structure of the cove seemed strange. Later, they returned home, and Rest and Van could smell something sweet. Agni told them she made pancakes, and they knew how tasty pancakes she makes, getting them excited. Next, over the strategic planning, Rest summarizes the situation for everyone that he closed the outlet of magic, so the trees shouldn't overgrow now, but the root cause is still unknown. Unicorn mentioned while Rest was in the cove, he went and investigated other areas, only to find more areas with overflowing magic. He asked Fail to help him out by spreading the map and making locations he told her. He points at all the spots with a magic outlet, and Rest's expression gradually turns sour when he realizes just how many cracks there were. Rest don't think there's an end to all of them, but Unicorn tells him he needs to fix them before it strikes his mansion and sinks the island later on. Fail then notices something on the map and asks him if she could doodle on it. Rest allows her, while Spy points out these cracks don't seem to happen in the center of the island. Kita states the center of this island is mountain areas, made of bedrocks as sturdy as Mithril. Kanun agreed with Kita-kun, and when others heard her call him like that, especially Rest, looking at them with a surprised look on his face. Kanun didn't know Kita didn't tell them about her being an old friend of his, but Kita states it's irrelevant in the current situation, and he doesn't want to say anything that won't do any good for Lord Rest. Fail is doodling on the map while these guys talk, and once she is done with it, she shows it to Lord Rest. Rest thinks of it as just a cute creature design, and she mentions it looks like this doll she got if they connect all the spots. Rest asks her about this doll. Fail claims she got it from Agni, and apparently it's very important to Agni. Spy seems to recognize this doll, while Fail claims when she couldn't sleep at first after arriving here, Agni lent it to her to help her sleep, saying this doll will protect her from nightmares, just like how it protects her from loneliness. Unicorn's imagination is running wild as he imagined beautiful love of pure maidens, but Kita here wished they could get back to the main matter at hand. Tareen comes and tells everyone it's time for a break, as she brought some tea for them. Once everyone was finished with tea, Astoria praised Lord Rest for working so hard. Then, while taking his glass, she noticed the map with doodle drawn by Fail, and she asks if this cute creature is sleeping here. Rest tells her it's just drawn by Fail, but then he notices something and shows it to Kita, asking if such a giant creature existed on this island. That would explain all the anomalies going on right now. Kita wonders what Rest means. Then Kanun thinks of something she could add, since she has been curious ever since she observed the cove, which looked like the jaw of a monster. She placed the face of the creature on a map, aligned with the location of the cove, and they ended up getting an image of a dragon. The dragon image immediately reminded Kita of something, and he didn't want to actually believe this island was the place where that legendary great dragon died. It's rare to see Kita this excited. Kanun told him that a great dragon is an adventurer's ultimate goal, and some say that curse spread to the area where it died. It explains the massive amounts of magicules, and even gifted ones are bound to suffer in these areas. Kita did go through his gift going out of control earlier. Then Unicorn explained the effects weren't limited to just them, but also the whole environment, including those Coco birds who were supposed to have wings, but they degenerated from the miasma presence. It could also lead to changes in rare ores, medicinal herbs, and poisonous plants. Kanun mentions that might be behind this talking horse as well. Unicorn calls her a rude succubi. Rest claims it's still too early for them to say anything, but it's a pretty credible hypothesis to proceed with. Kanun states if the island is really made of magicules from Dragon's corpse, she wonders how they are supposed to stop all that magic. Rest thinks about it as he looks over the map, and his attention falls in the center, where there are no rifts. He wonders if they all could just move there. Unicorn shoots down the idea right away. Rest thinks it should be okay, moving with help of his power, but Unicorn denies. That's not the case because the miasma concentration at the summit is too high even to approach. Rest asks if there is miasma at the summit, why aren't there any rifts? To which Unicorn replies because the miasma at summit wasn't caused by rift, but had been there since ancient times. So when a human, Rest, came here, Unicorn wanted to check that place out once. But it could be dangerous. Rest makes up his mind to check it out, since they could probably find a clue to a solution there, and he, who has craft skill, is the only one who could do it. He announced they'll explore the summit. Unicorn asks him if he truly understands what that means. Rest looks clueless. Then Unicorn explains anything could happen there, and his companions half-elves, Beastman, Succubi, and even he won't be capable of helping him there. Van knows the reason, because if they absorb too much magic energy, they will be dominated by their instincts, so they can't help him this time. Spy states his beast level is low, and he's also a veteran investigator, so he'll tag along with Rest, and so does Kita, who'll follow him anywhere. Fail also decided to go with him, which settles who will be going with him. Next morning, Rest sets out for the summit first thing in the morning. He gets Kita, Fail, Teacher, and Spy with him. Then Spy calls out his sister Agni and asks if she still had that stuffed animal he gave her. She nods, saying she has lent it to Fail now though, and confesses that stuffed animals have saved her countless times. It makes him happy, and he never thought he'd see the day when she, his clumsy little sister, would become so reliable and also help younger maids. He remembers how she used to follow him anywhere and is not a child anymore now. She looked at her brother and wished him a safe trip ahead. He leaves, with the message that her pancakes were really good. After some time, everyone started climbing on the mountain, and when Vargas was about to fall, Fail went and caught him just in time, assuring he'll be fine. Rest teases his little brother by asking Fail to keep care of Vargas for him. Spy, on the other hand, asked Lord Vargas if he should carry him on back. Vargas flatly refuses from needing any help, but when he sees a snake, he cries out like a helpless baby, putting on a show for others. Once they climbed up quite high at the peak, Rest noticed there's only a little more space to climb, and other than that, he thought magicules would be denser here. But it's the opposite, and there are no magicules here at all. Unicorn also acknowledges he shouldn't have been able to get this close if that were the case. Then he notices something up ahead around the edge of the mountain. At first glance, it seemed to everyone like a rock, but Kita pointed out it's shaped like an egg. Fail to wonder what kind of egg it could be. And Rest don't think it could be a small animal at all if it is one. Unicorn don't think it could be a bird, since they can't come this high near the peak of a mountain in the first place. Soy suggests it could be a dragon's egg, and Kita thinks if the legendary dragon did come to die here, that's highly likely. But it's confusing why the egg was unaffected by the demon miasma. Vargas notices something and asks Rest to take a look at his feet. There seems to be some kind of pattern on the ground, and specks of light are coming out of it. Rest thinks it's some sort of pattern, so Unicorn suggests failing to sit over him as he flies and looks at it from the sky, while she draws what the whole pattern looks like. She agreed to do that and drew what she saw on the ground, and once finished, Rest and others looked at it, and it was undoubtedly a magic circle. It seems like some kind of magic was casted on the egg, but they wonder what could be the purpose. Vargas thinks it must have been casted by a dragon, obviously, so it could be related to magic. Unicorn closely observed the light coming from ground and realized it's actually magic. Vargas asked the holy beast if magic could hatch the egg, and they can't deny the possibility. Which means the legendary dragon must have been setting up a way to hatch this egg after his death. But for some reason, the mana stopped reaching the mountaintop, so the egg never hatched and is left on the mountaintop. Unicorn likes how the little brother is smarter than the elder one, and while they deduce the situation, Fail just hopes the dragon egg to hatch, as she would like to meet a dragon's child. Suddenly, their feet sensed an earthquake, and Kita looked around from above only to find out that their mansion was in danger. They immediately left for home and quickly went around to check if everyone's okay. Agni assured him everyone was fine as they took refuge in Coco Bird's hut. Otherwise, it could have been dangerous. Rest notices the outburst of magic in the nearby area, then turns to ask Van and Astoria if they are safe. Van affirms they are fine, since their royal blood allows them to handle this much magic at least. And more importantly, he mentions the Master Dwarf also came here and waited to meet Lord Rest. Dyers translates the reason why Master Dwarf came was to inform him about something he figured out underground, then went on to explain that island was basically over the corpse of dragon, so the magicules were meant to flow to the top. But since they also brought some changes to the environment, they ended up transforming some rocks into mithril, which repels magicules. And what dwarves saw underground was a massive amount of mithril ore, which explains why magic bursted out from other places and overgrown trees started occurring around different places, since the magicules lost their path and accumulated underground. This endangers the entire island, so Rest thought of a plan to fix the flow of magic with his craft skill. However, Van asks him how he will do that. Rest suggests he will use the mithril to create pipes and give the flow of magic proper directions, connecting them all the way to the mountaintop. But first, they will have to remove the mithril, which is blocking the flow right now. Kita called out Lord Rest, because he's worried, since Rest's skill has a limited range, which is why Rest would need everyone's help in this. Coco arrived at the same time, asking if there's anything they could do, since they can't keep relying on Lord Rest forever. They offered to help in clearing out areas with magic, and since they think of dragons as objects of worship, they would be honored to be of help. Unicorn could see their reasoning to worship the dragons. And while they were preparing to deal with the situation, Agni was thinking of preparing a bed for the dragon child and some milk as well, excited to meet him soon. Everyone set out for the cove, to mine mithril and clear the path of magic flow. It took them quite a while to create a large mithril mine, from where they could have Lord Rest remove all the mithril, and when the magic overflowed from it, Rest covered them with open chimneys to release the magic flow into the sky with ease, which solved the problem of earthquakes. Now, all that's left is to connect the chimneys to flow magic towards mountaintop, but Agni asks him how he will do that. With his limited range and building in the air will be dangerous for him. Coco suggests why don't he just ask the holy beast to let him ride on its back, but Unicorn retaliates at first, saying he only allows girls to ride on his back. Agni and Coco gave him innocent stares, which urged him to give in and let him ride. Rest was really happy to finally get to ride the holy beast and use craft in the sky, and despite Unicorn's hatred, he had to take our boy into the sky. Rest opened his eyes once they were up, and now that he looked over the whole island from above, a lot has changed and he misses the time when they first got here. Unicorn told him to just get to work instead of reminiscing about stuff. Rest activated his skill and started forming a pipe of mithril, slowly connecting all the chimneys together. While he's at it, Astoria looks up to him, thinking how amazing he is, while she is not helping Rest at all. Agni suggests, why don't they cook something together instead of waiting here, so Lord Rest and others would come back to a delicious feast which will put smiles on their faces. Tareen and Kanun were also up for helping out with cooking, and later on Coco and Fail joined them as well. Everyone hoped it'll go well, and from village chief to Master Dwarf, everyone observed the whole scene, as Rest slowly connected pipes and guided magicules to the mountaintop. And once it was done, soon everyone got to witness hatching of the legendary dragon's egg, and they saw a baby dragon coming to life before their eyes, slowly gaining his consciousness. Since then, a year has passed, and Spy informs the royal capital of the report on Eldova Island's development that in last year, Lord Rest developed it significantly and renamed it to Principality of Kale, his own country, and also got recognized by the neighboring nations. His achievements didn't end there, as there was a time in between when the family of Dane's territory was in danger once, when they got attacked by pure elves. The pure elves believed they were a race chosen by gods, so they chose to gain more land starting with Dane's territory. Lord Vargas Dane faced peril in that time, but when Lord Rest learned of the war, he immediately flew over the sea to arrive at Dane territory, riding on a dragon. And since elves worshipped dragons, they immediately kneeled down before it and ordered a ceasefire. Meanwhile, at the Principality of Kale, people seem to be living happily, and Tareen has become an apothecary in the town. Dr has become a merchant, with his business always blooming. Tareen was mostly known for her perfumes, crafted with help of elves and their growth magic, used in growing herbs used in different perfumes. Deer mentioned that her herbs are also known to do wonders around the world. That's why they are selling like hotcakes, just like perfumes. She is pleased to hear that, and on the other hand, Astoria has become a bride candidate of Rest, and she just got a really great perfume from Tareen's shop. She was going all out now with her bride approach, and this time definitely got some concrete results. Tareen, on other hand, wishes she could meet that handsome guy again, which confuses Deer since he hasn't seen him. She showed him the picture of the guy and even marked him as a missing person, asking people to report to Lord's Manor if they see him. Dr laughs out loud because he knows this guy is Kita, and Kanun also finds it funny, thinking, how could Tareen fall for him? Right then, Kita arrived and snatched the picture from their hands and requested those two to just keep this to themselves. Kanun asks why keep it a secret since it's just Kita's poster, and this was when Tareen found out the reality. Kita tried to explain, but she just went silent, while Unicorn was enjoying the situation from above. Meanwhile, Fail is really glad out here, thinking she must have helped out Tareen a lot by drawing that image, hoping she would find her man. Then Van also seems to have something to say, and tells her that he wants to give it a try being a good prince back at his empire, just like how Lord Rest worked hard for his own nations. So, he will leave and train real hard there and come back stronger one day. Fail went quiet, while he simply requested her to take care of his sister for him while he's gone. She tells him she will be waiting for him as well, and he promises to battle with her again once he does. Around this time, the center of everything, our protagonist Rest, was enjoying his well-deserved rest, and Agni seemed to be finding him from some time now. He yawns and tells her this is his favorite spot on the island, then proceeds to ask how everyone else is doing. She tells him they are preparing for the founding festival, as it's already been a year since their island became a nation. Rest finds it all lively and memorable, and they keep sitting there, cherishing the blue sky and warm sunlight. He wished these days to last forever, where he had all this freedom to sleep as much as he wanted, enjoy himself as much as he wanted, and smile as much as he wanted. However, Agni reminds him he needs to go over the documents, which is the tricky part he wishes he could leave to others. He told her it will have to wait for tomorrow, since he got to go fishing with Astoria today, and Agni knows already about his date with her. He doesn't deny it, and at the same time, a stranger arrives beside them, saying he hopes to live on this island, but he's kind of lost and needs some directions to Lord's Manor. Rest welcomes the guy and gets him some tea, assuring he feels at home here. He welcomes the stranger as the Lord of the Eldova Island.